Welcome to the latest Scale Model World podcast with me, David Howell from Tyrell Models, and
Wayne from World of Wayne. The Scale Model World podcast.
welcome everyone to this latest episode. This podcast series aims to explore every aspect of model making, and we mean that by when we say every single aspect of model making, from big scale models, partworks, all the way through to plastic kits, and also allied industries and fields that link to our hobby. I think I'd also like to kick off this episode with I guess to reiterate to everyone listening to us, do get in touch. We always, I think we've said on the first couple of these that this podcast series is absolutely for the listeners. So if you do have any sort of questions and queries, then you do get in touch with either Wayne or I, and we'll try and answer those questions if we can in a future episode.
Definitely.
Now, I think at the top of this one, there's probably quite a lot to sort of talk about. But I think we always kind of kick off with, I guess, what we've been doing sort of previously, maybe the last couple of weeks, or at least since the last episode. Now, I think I've just seen a couple of your recent videos, Wayne. So it looks to me like you are inundated with stuff to do. So it's not a case of nothing to do. It's a case of what do you do first?
I have got absolutely tons to do, and I've actually done tons. I mean, one of the things that we did, which was probably the most successful video in the last 2 weeks, was the Small Space Model Show in Haslop, which was this was a like a sci-fi model show in a village hall. That's how small it is. But the videos had almost 25,000 views. But not just the video, the amount of people that, because you were there, Dave, because I didn't even know you were turning up. You were there. It was busy, wasn't it? It was just really busy for a small city. And it's encouraging to see that something on such a small scale could have such a following. I really do think that would transpose better on a bigger scale, but I don't know how that.
I wasn't sure what to expect, if I'm perfectly honest. I'd sort of looked at Matt's website, because this is a sort of joint thing with Matt Irving, who some of you may know from the Special Effects and Radiophonic Workshop at the BBC. Any of you guys out there watch Blake 7 or pretty much any of the sci-fi series is sort of the 70s and 80s. Matt probably built the models. I'm pretty sure he built the Liberator. I'm pretty sure he did. And he was a member of that team. So him and Paul Fitzmaurice, they put the show on, and I had no idea. This is the 10th year, and I'd never even heard of it until recently. I'm not sure how I tripped over it. I think I just either saw something you put online, Wayne, or I was just doing my usual surf across the model making channels, and it just popped up. But again, sort of getting to it, and then when I parked, I thought, hang on a second, I was parked about a quarter of a mile away from the venue just to get a space on the grass verge. I thought, this is going to be busy, which I kind of wasn't expecting.
Yeah, no, it was a great show.
It was a bit. I think it was something for everyone, wasn't it? There was lots of stuff in there for original props and also sort of facsimiles. Really like the K9s. Amazing. Mm-hmm. Also, some scale models as well. So some guys out the back were showing some of their stuff, and a mixture of that. There are a few dealers, I think, there as well, which was quite nice to see. So it's a kind of an interesting melting pot. But again, it had that sort of sci-fi fantasy bias, which I kind of hadn't really experienced before. I think you mentioned it a couple of times on your channel that it's not a IPMS show, which is predominantly sort of aero and armor, really.
Funny you should say that, because IPMS, I've actually just signed up. So I am now an IPMS.
Welcome to the gang. Yes.
I have got a membership card, and they've sent me the first IPMS magazine, which I've been looking through, and I was so pleased to see around about 10 pages in it. They've got a spread of models that have like grabbed their fancy and that they like. And on that page, I'd say about 40% of them are sci-fi models. Mm-hmm. You've got the Razor Crest, you've got Thanos' helmet, you've got R2-D2, you've got the Starbug. It's great that IPMS seem to embracing just, away from military items and tanks, and also going for this sci-fi, because I think there's a big market in this country for that. And that's one of the reasons why I joined up with IPMS, because I wanted to see, because I did see it last year creeping in at Telford, that there was quite a big balance of sci-fi stuff there.
there's more than it used to be. Absolutely, there are even some special interest groups which just focus on the fantasy side or sci-fi or a sort of mashup with all of that. I think the history, because this year, oddly enough, it's the 60th anniversary of IPMS. So
Oh
if you
wow.
are going to be in Telford this year, it's their 60th year, and it's absolutely evolved from what kind of used to be Armour and Aero to a much more diverse range. And yes, there are absolutely more sort of sci-fi and fantasy guys which are building within each group. I'm probably the guy in my group because I tend to build all the sci-fi and fantasy in my group. But there are specialists who just do that, and you see that across some of their tables if you go to some of the IPMS events across the country, of which there are
Yeah.
many. But it's an interesting one. I mean, I think we even touched on the idea that, well, could you do this on a bigger scale? Couldn't we? I
Yeah.
kind of dubbed it sort of Wonderfest UK. Could you do that?
Hmm.
So I think we want to kind of put that sort of on the table to everyone listening to this, and kind of ask everyone, what do you think if there was a larger event that was really focused on sci-fi and fantasy model making? Would you attend? Would it be something that our listeners would be interested in? Because we can absolutely do some sort of preliminary work towards that and see if it's actually possible with venues, where it would be, and all the rest of it. But it's an interesting one that the small space show kind of showed us what you can do on a small scale, but can you scale that up? I think that's kind of the question, isn't it?
Well, it'd be interesting because Telford is
Mm.
such a massive venue as well that
Could be
you
Telford.
could you
Yeah,
could
yeah, yeah.
easily incorporate something like there as well. Even as part of that show, because I mean, I still can't fathom how big Telford actually was.
Yes,
If the listeners don't realise, it was my first time attending last year,
indeed,
and I
indeed.
was blown away. And I was only there for about 4 hours. This year, I'm intending to be there for the full weekend. I'm bringing
Yes.
Mrs. Wayne across as well, so she's going to have to put up with me geeking out that day. But I was in my element. I've never
Yeah,
ever
yeah, yeah.
seen anything like it. It was great.
Yeah, it's amazing. That kind of event. I think I was there. The very first one was pre-COVID, literally just on the cusp of COVID, and I was
Wow.
astonished as well at the site because that was the first one I'd ever been to. Because I was just got back into the hobby. That was about 6 months
Uh-huh.
before I actually got to sort of go back in. And I thought, well, RPMS is coming, so I'll just go along because I joined. So it's free
Yeah,
entry. If you're an RPMS member,
that's it. Yeah,
you straight past all the queues and straight
and
in.
you get early entry as well, don't you? As
You do
IPMS.
indeed.
Yep.
You get an hour
Wow.
before. So if there's anything on the dealer stands that you're quite fancy, you're going to get first dibs. So there's the plug for joining the IPMS. I'll be
Yeah.
putting
No,
the check.
definitely.
I'll be putting my invoice in the post, guys. Don't worry. We're thinking about that and what that could be, where it could be, what size it could be. So everyone, please do come back to us with your thoughts, queries, and feelings about that kind of show.
No,
Now,
definitely.
I think there's a few things sort of happening at the moment. I think that obviously we were actually recording this the day after Agora Models did their DB5 announcement, and wow, that looks kind of amazing, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. I mean, Christmas Eve, they first announced, because I didn't know what was going on about the James Bond launch. And I actually did a live reaction video because I just had this feeling that this was going to be something big because they've kept it so secret. And obviously, when James Bond was announced, I was like, oh my God, because I had just returned from the Peterson Museum like a few months before, and they had the James Bond exhibition there. So to see that they're actually bringing the DB5 out as the first car, and this is a DB5 that we've never seen before. It's not like the old Eagle Moss or anything like that. This is a completely new build, completely new tooled everything, and it looks amazing. It looks great, and obviously it starts shipping in October. So I'm chomping at the bit to get hold of it.
Yes, I am debating. I look at the site pretty much every morning. Which one do I go for?
Yeah.
Am I going to go with the all singing all dancing? Do I want a case? Do I want to go that far, or do I want to spread it over a year or 2 years? I don't think I could wait 2 years to build it, to be honest.
But the thing you'll find is the collectability of it is you're going to have the DB5 out first. I believe the Lotus is going to be following it, but
Yeah, yeah.
we're looking like 5 or 10 years down the line when they've actually got this range of Bond cars. You're probably going to end up doing it anyway because you want the full collection. So it's like,
God, don't say that. Oh, that's it's trying to house all that stuff, you know. I mean, after the Lotus, actually, I'm going to be very interested to see what's next. Because those two are
yeah.
top of my list, and I'd be hard pushed. What would I do next, or what would I like to build next? And I don't know. So it's kind of in Agora's court. What would be the third one? And I'd love to
Yeah.
have been a fly on the wall where they were deciding on the running order. Was it going to be the
Yeah.
first, second, and
No,
third? So
definitely.
I'd like to know what's going to be the third one. I'd love to sort of find out what that might be, and if that would whet my appetite
Well,
to
I'm
do a
looking at
third
all my pictures from the Peterson last year, and it's
one.
going to be one of those cars. So, and
Isn't
I'd
it?
like them all.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it could well be, and yeah, I'm gonna have to make some space in the old bank balance for that. I think. Now, something else I wanted to ask you as well was you're doing both Optimuses, and I distinctly
uh-huh.
remember you saying that you might not really do the Michael Bay version. That you thought, well, do I really want to do that? But actually,
Uh-huh.
you sort of said, no, I'm going to do both because you want to do a comparison, don't you?
I want to do a comparison, mainly on account that I'd never actually seen the Transformers films. I've seen the first one now,
Mm,
so I thought, okay, it was good. But what I didn't like about the Transformers film was that because the action's so fast and there's so much going on, I just couldn't keep up with it to look at the
sure.
details of
Mm,
how Optimus Prime looked. So actually doing this build at the moment is it's an eye opener for me. And
yeah, yeah.
we've obviously in the first pack we obviously did the head and we've done a little bit of the chest, but in the last pack we did the foot, and I can't believe how big the foot is. It's
Yes.
ginormous, and it's
Yes.
pretty much all metal. So you've got a really paperweight of a foot, and you're trying to
Well, absolutely,
extrapolate
yes.
how that's
Yeah.
going to be for the full
Mm,
model. How
mm,
big's this going to be, or how heavy is it going to be? Now, the Agora Optimus Prime is a lot bigger than this one. It's almost a ruler length bigger.
yeah,
But they've
yeah.
got their own. They've got their own special places, I think, in that genre. But I mean, everyone loves Transformers.
You got to kind of decide, and I kind of did fancy doing the TV versions because of all the detail.
Hmm.
That those films are eye
Yeah.
popping. Where do you look first? I mean, I've even paused stuff just so I can have a look at detail. Some of this stuff, you just, as you say, it goes by so quickly. But I just pause my the DVD or whatever, just to have a look. But I don't know. It's probably for me. It's displaying it, and would I really want to do that? I mean, I've got Iron Man on
Yeah.
display, for instance, and that's probably as
Uh-huh.
big as I could ever go. Really, that's why I don't have the Terminator because the thing's just too big.
Yeah, well, the Optimus Prime is a similar size to your Iron Man. It's a similar
Yes,
size.
so that's why I'm kind of maybe, yeah, possibly. But then, of course, DB5 comes along, and well, if I have to make a choice, probably
But then,
DB5, probably.
then coming away from Partworks, obviously,
Mm,
was it last week? God, I had such a busy week last week. Last week, I got the invitation from Airfix to go down to.
yes, indeed, yes.
Well, I went to Taunton, but the
Mm,
actual venue was at Chard Equestrian. So there's a place called Chard in Somerset, which is completely in the middle of nowhere. And we didn't know why we were going. Airfix
yeah,
gave
you
us
said,
no idea
yeah,
what we were
no
going
idea
for.
what it was. Had you had any inkling at all? Were you sort of thinking what it could be?
I was actually thinking, is it going to be a range of racehorses like Red Rum, Desert Orchid, stuff like that,
Right.
Because it was a question. What's that got to do with
Yeah,
anything
yeah, yeah,
Airfix do?
yeah.
I honestly had no idea. So when I actually got to Chard Equestrian, I pulled up and there was some scrap Seeking helicopters there. And I'm like,
Ah,
okay. And there's a place there called Historic Helicopters. It's a charity, and they actually do up things like Sea Kings, Lynx helicopters, and stuff like that.
there's
So
the
then I
link.
figured,
Yeah.
okay, this has got to be something to do with helicopters. So when we went in, obviously they announced the Westland Sea King, which they've got the three brands: the HAS1, the HAS5, and the HU5.
Mhm.
Of course, the first
Yep.
question I said to them was, "Where's the yellow one?" Because you think of Sea King helicopters, everyone
Absolutely.
thinks of the yellow one.
You
So
do.
that may be coming down the line. We don't know yet, but that may be
Ooh,
coming.
yeah.
But for now, we've got this. We
Mm.
got this. We got the four that they had on display, which was
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. It's a great day. We got to actually see the yellow Sea King that Prince William flew.
Mhm.
They had
Yeah,
the
yeah.
film and TV replica of Marine One, the President of the United States helicopter. So we got to see that, and we got to see the
Right.
blades fold up in that. It was just an absolute great day, and it was brilliant to see exactly how this thing's designed, then tooled,
Mm.
then made,
Yeah, yeah.
and how it's brought to the marketplace now. But this was something that I believe Airfix had kept under wraps in their like yearly release and what there's coming this year to make this big announcement for it. So
There
I'm actually
was
going to be building this because I want to light
mm,
it. As soon as I saw it, I thought
yes.
this needs to be lit.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
took lots of video from Sea Kings around historic helicopters to get some reference. So that's going to be probably something I'm doing on the channel in the later quarter of the year. But it was a great day. Absolutely
Yeah,
great
it
day.
sounds fantastic. I mean, Airfix just seem to be, I don't know, it's like it's almost a renaissance for them, isn't it? They really
Hmm.
seem to be going big guns and choosing the right models. I think maybe in the past, maybe they were maybe not guilty of ignoring the modeling community, but they kind of did their own thing. But I think now it's a case of we have this vast community. What do you do?
Well, when they announced, that they've got a special announcement, the most people in the comments said, "I hope it's another Spitfire," because they're just being sarcastic, because that's all they ever keep to bring out is Spitfires.
Yes,
and believe me, Airfix know that as well, and they were making a joke of it as well. But it's like, no, it's not a Spitfire.
But it is a wonderful model. It is probably their best one for decades. I think some people have said. I think they are. I think they. I mean, they've kind of come out of the wilderness a bit, haven't they? Because the company itself, I think, went through some issues, but now it's it's back into profitability. It can invest, and it's paying attention to kind of a couple of things. I think moving forward into the future, but also historically as well. There's massive back catalogue of stuff. What can we?
They are bringing out the vintage range as well, so that's good. I saw the Bond Bug thing is
something with the Bond Bug.
The little.
I think that might be delivered tomorrow. But again, for me, that screams putting some lights on it. It has to be lit. So make it more. I'm definitely going to like that when I get mine. But things like that, things that are unusual. So I think they are fantastic for that kind of for that kind of thing. But I always look for that unusual things, anything that is a little bit strange or unusual. I'm kind of known for that in my RPMS group. I don't tend to build just normal things. I always look for either an unusual body shape for a card, or I'm doing a prototype Nazi flying saucer, which apparently they designed during the World War II. I'm doing that, but it's something unusual. I'm always attracted to strange body shapes or whatever. That's kind of what I do. Now, what I'd like to actually move to is I suppose this is this point in these podcasts where we sometimes talk about I guess things which relate to our hobby. One thing I wanted to ask you about, because you probably have more experience of this than I have, as I'm just back into the hobby. I guess I'm focusing on probably big scale models, partworks. I've heard a lot of people asking me, really since the last one, is how you take care of these things. If you haven't bought a case for these, they sit on the shelf, and it's the dreaded dust issue. It's how do you look after these things? How do you keep them in tip-top condition? And I wondered if you'd come up with any kind of workflow for doing that, or is it just literally just blow the dust off when you go near one of these models? How do you sort of take care of your vast collection of partworks?
Well, at the moment, I've got 4 shelves in the old man cave, which have got 5. They're 5 tiered. So that's 5, 10, 15, 16. I've got 17 models on display in the old man cave, and I've got others scattered around the house. But I have great big makeup brushes that ladies put blusher on with, and I keep them on each shelf. And just when I'm it's more like it's not that I go to intend to do it. It's like just a habit thing. I pick it up and just keep brushing the dust off it. The thing is that you can keep your models nice and clean, but then the shelves get dusty, and then obviously you need to take the cars off the shelves to dust the shelves. So the luck I've got is that the room that they're actually displayed in, not many people go in there, so it doesn't really accumulate much dust. In the high footfall areas of the house, obviously it gets a lot more. But honestly, just use a dust, because if you're going to start using liquids or chemicals on cloths or damp cloths and stuff like that, you're going to have a bad time, because it will affect your paint at the end of the day.
Yes, and I found that. I think I touched my DeLorean, one of the wings with something. Don't know what it was. Could have been a bit of glue, etc. It's straight through the paint. So I had to get another wing, take the whole thing to bits, put the wing back on, because there was literally just a patch. It must have been a bit of glue, because I think I was attaching one of the wires, which is just flapping around. So I thought, I'll just touch it with a bit of glue, and it must have spread and just completely straight through the paint. So you have to be very, very.
But the other thing, there is one other thing that I'd recommend though, and that's if you're doing. A lot of people are going to love this tip. If you've done the Fast and Furious Dodge Charger, or you're currently doing the Fan Home Night Rider, is I'm just trying to think. Turtle Wax. Turtle Wax do a
Oh, yeah.
color magic wax, a black
Right.
color magic wax. It's
Uh-huh.
anti-static, so it basically repels the dust.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
when you put it in, it will give an immaculate shine. It will take any blemishes, scratches, anything out that blackness, and you can get
Wow.
color coded wax for all of your models, and it does exactly the same job. So when you've completed your model, if you give it a coat of that, you won't have to dust it as often. I don't know why that is, but it's just a great. It just repels your wax.
Yeah, if it's anti-static.
Yeah,
I mentioned anti-static. That's what I do. I use these anti-static cloths, which you usually use for floors. I use them
yeah,
as just hand dusters because
mhm.
I don't want to put the dust back into the air. I want to physically take it off the model. So I use one of these anti-static
Yeah.
dust wipes and just gently wipe the model, and it literally pulls the dust off the model, which stays in the actually in the cloth. Throw the cloth away. So you're not just dusting it to put it back into the air to settle back onto your
No,
model.
it's great.
So I've,
But then sometimes I've got the orca on
mm,
display in my window, and the sunshine is on it all the time, and it's
yeah,
doing an
yeah.
absolutely brilliant effects in bleaching the paint, which is what I wanted it to do, to
There you
make it
go.
look like a ship that's been out at sea for
Yeah,
ages.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
sometimes you want it to be deliberately looked a bit roughed up.
Absolutely, yes. But don't leave your DB5 in the direct sun. Don't do
No,
that.
definitely don't do
No,
that.
no, 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 no. Don't do that. Oh, that'd be interesting with your tip about the turtle wax to seal that what's probably going to be an immaculate paint job
Yeah.
with something, just so finger marks and dust
Yeah.
doesn't accumulate. That might be a very, very good
Well,
tip.
we'll show
But
my age, Dave, but perhaps it might show yours as well. But back in the days, back in the 80s, before we had all this turtle wax, color magic, and all that, we had something called myrrh. Do you remember that? It was
I
in a
do indeed.
blue tub.
Yep,
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 that stuff was
indeed.
brilliant for doing that sort
Yep.
of thing.
Indeed. Well, I'd help my dad for hours turtle wax in the car on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Um, wipe it on, wipe it off, give it a polish. And that was pretty much at least once a month, probably even longer than that. Yeah, people of a certain age will know what we're talking about with turtle wax.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, before moving on, I'd like to talk to you all about a company that we've been working with, Agora Models, the home of big scale modeling. Agora Models has transformed the world of scale modeling since they launched, largely due to the company promise. The Agora promise is designed to re-establish trust that once a new model has been launched, it will not stop production until every part of the kit has been produced. The Agora Advantage Club rewards customers, giving members early access to new models, but importantly, ensures the customer care experience is world class. Whether you want to build a museum quality car, iconic vehicle, or love sci-fi and fantasy, there is a model in the Agora range ready for you. With exciting new models coming this year, including the first of the James Bond collection, if you have always wanted to build a model, Agora Models invites you to join a massive community of fellow scale modelers. Visit agoramodels.com to discover their ever-changing range of museum quality models. Well, now it's time for our sort of special guest section on this episode of the Scale Model World podcast. I'm really delighted to welcome Chloe Powell from Modelmodz. Welcome, Chloe.
Hi, hi everyone. How are you all
Hi,
doing?
Chloe.
It's good to be here.
Well, yeah, thanks for joining us. We really wanted to, I guess, get you on for this one because we obviously want to talk about modern mods in particular, the modern community, what that kind of means, really where we're going with, I guess, all of that, what's happening in the market. But we also want to get some insights because we're the sharp end. We buy the mods for our models to make them super detailed and kind of fix stuff that maybe the manufacturers didn't do very well, shall we say. So I think the
Yeah.
modding community I think it's a vibrant thing. It's kind of an evolving beast. I always think, and it's what's going to come next. When I get a new model, I say, okay, what's going to get modded on this thing? And it's always the anticipation. Yeah. Maybe it's a good idea first. Maybe take a bit of a step back. Maybe you could give us maybe a potted history of where Modelmodz came from, and maybe a little bit about your background as well, Chloe.
Well, Modelmodz basically came from the DeLorean. I think when the first DeLorean came out, it was something that I wanted to do myself. I love the DeLorean. I love the movie.
Mm.
I'm sure everyone, we all grew up and watching that movie thinking, oh, we all want to own one of our own DeLorean time
Yes,
machines. And then
absolutely.
when the
Yes.
opportunity came out, especially from Eagle Moss, and I wanted to, just build that car myself and have that car in my house. Um, so I decided that I actually wanted to do it. And then obviously when the car arrived and starting to build it, I sort of noticed so many errors and issues and so many things that were just needed to be done to it. And I thought, well, maybe I could do that. Obviously my background, and not many people do know, I mean, I've got a background in electronics. I
Hmm.
studied electronics when I was much younger. I did a degree in electrical engineering.
Yep.
I also, in my previous job, was building models for the company. I used to work at Heathrow Airport, and the X-ray machines and big machines that they use there, they always like to have miniatures built so they can actually see how it would fit within the
Oh,
actual
right.
concourse
Okay.
area.
Yeah, yeah.
So things like that is what I would actually get involved in with the engineering team, and we would sit there and we would say, okay, we can do this, can do that. Let's make a mini version of it. And obviously having it on CGI and on computer screen is completely different to actually viewing it as a model form. And I actually built a miniature version of the X-ray machines and the um, archways, and they all worked, and the machine worked, and when you walk through the archway it beeped, and the X-ray machine moved and
Mm.
everything else, and
Yeah,
we could
yeah.
actually see live moving in on it to actually how this thing worked. So my background of model building, and that was all built out of cardboard and paper. There was no
Yes.
nothing fancy there. That was just literally crafts. When you're young and you want to build these things, you think, oh well, I want to build this craft, paper mache thing. And it was all done through that. And then obviously, moving forwards, when the DeLorean came, I was thinking to myself, maybe I can take my expertise in model building and my electronics career and actually make this time machine and bring it to life. There's a lot of models that I know out there that are always, just sitting on shelves and things like that. And they're great to sit on the shelf, but
Mm.
you want to bring the model to life. And I think my motto was, anything that I now build model wise, I just want to bring it to life. And moving forward, and then Modelmodz basically came to light, and moving forward from here, um, all the other models moving forward. Yeah.
When
So
did
was the
yeah.
DeLorean the first build up model that you did, or had you done model making before?
So I did model making before. I used to do other models, those things like tanks and aeroplanes and
Mhm.
and
Yep.
boats, and all the kit forms that you would pick up from your local model shop, and stick it all together with the glue and make a
Good.
complete mess, drop the glue everywhere, all your
Yeah, yeah,
parts
yeah.
would end up everywhere. The usual model building where
Yeah.
painting and screwing stuff together. Meccano, things like that. So,
Mm.
I used to do the modeling, back in those days. And obviously it then moved on to doing things with paper and cardboard and stuff like that. So the part work is, completely different.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people did start with the DeLorean. Obviously, the Millennium Falcon, I think, was the introduction for me. But I saw
Yes.
the uplift when the DeLorean came on. Definitely.
Yes, 100%, 100%. The DeLorean is an amazing model, and what we've achieved with it, and there's still more that we're doing with it even this year, changing things, adding new things, making it even more, bringing it even more to life. It's a challenge, but it's fun.
So it's kind of it speaks to, I guess, the maker gene, which I think everyone in this community has kind of got. Everyone's kind of has that sort of driver, I think, built into their sort of DNA just to make stuff. But
Yes.
when did you make the transition then from it kind of being, I could sort of mod that for me, to being a business? Was it a case that you always saw that as maybe as an opportunity, or was it just
Never.
a case of someone just thought, well, you're doing that for yours, can you do it for me, and me and me and me, and suddenly there's a business there?
That is exactly how it was. It was for me really more than anything, and I think it was the radio mod that I did for the
Yeah,
DeLorean that
yeah.
kind of pushed it forward. I did a work in radio. I was sitting here and I put the little tape in, and I thought to myself, if only this radio could work. I did a lot of surface mount electronics, so obviously my background of making things miniature and shrinking it into
Yep.
size
Yep.
was always one of my things. I remember being at uh, university, and one of our lecturers, we had to build this miniature radio, and the teacher gave us this circuit board and a load of components and said, you need to build this machine, make it work. And that was part of the study, and explain how it worked. And I think the board was about 7 centimeters by about 8 centimeters. And I looked at this
Right.
board and thought to myself, what a waste of a board, what a waste of components. So everyone's around me building their machines, and I took this miniature radio up to the student, up to the teacher, and I said to him, "Here we go. Here's my radio." And I shrunk this radio down to about 3 centimeters by 2 centimeters, if
Yeah.
that. And he said to me, "Well, you didn't follow the plan properly." And I said to him, "Well, just test the radio and just tell me it works." He goes, "But it does work, but I'm failing you because you didn't
Yes.
you didn't
Yes.
build it to spec." I said,
Yeah.
"Well,
Charming.
what a complete waste of components and a complete waste of stuff." I said, "Moving in the real world, you wouldn't do this in the real world." Unfortunately, he wasn't happy with me and failed me. But the fact that I did it and shrunk it down in size pushed me forward to doing more and shrinking stuff. And then obviously going back to the DeLorean, when I saw the opportunity to have a working radio, I thought, you know what, let me try this. And when I did do it, Wayne, as you know, out there when you were building a DeLorean, the amount of people that just said, "Oh my God, I want this, I need
Yeah.
this, oh my God, I
Yeah.
want that in my
Yeah.
DeLorean."
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, well, if I can do it for me, I can do it for everybody else. And that's pretty much how that started.
Well, thinking about that radio for the DeLorean, that was when you were creating these mods, were they created because it became apparent as you received the part work? Because I know the flux
That's it.
capacitor came way down the road because we didn't get that till like the middle of the build, really, did we? And I'm sure the radio was one of your first ones.
It was. The radio was one of my first ones, and the time circuit, so working time circuits, the drum switch and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the flux didn't come down until later on, and that was only because of Joe Walser, and having a conversations with him about the flux and stuff like that, and realizing how bad the flux was. That's when I decided that had to be done. That was a challenge in itself.
So do you think that modding in sort of general, have you seen that pretty much stays pretty stable, or have you seen I guess the marketplace for this stuff kind of explode over time? 'Cause it does seem to me that in the early days there were a few of these floating around simply because no one was doing it, no one was building this stuff. I think you
Yep,
were pretty much unique.
yep,
But now, if you're
yep.
looking back, you look at the marketplace today. Do you have a sense that there's still a massive appetite to do this kind of thing? To these models. I mean, they're amazing on their own, but they can be pushed even further,
Yep.
can't they?
They can be pushed much, much further. I mean, there's more and more people doing it these days, and there's more talented people, not just myself, but there's everyday people learning Arduino code. There's people out
Yeah,
there with
yeah,
3D printers, and the more
yeah.
3D printers are out there and becoming cheaper as well, people are experimenting and doing these things and building their own things, and they're becoming their own mini modders themselves, which is absolutely amazing to see people out there creating these amazing things. And you know, and the more people buy these models, and they see the movies and they watch everything. They want just everything to be perfect and spot on and screen accurate. And the amount of time I see people going over pictures and images and trying to
Yep.
search
Hmm.
for the perfect, the perfect description and everything else. It's amazing to see that there is a demand out there, and there still is a demand out there for people, because not everybody can do mods, and not everybody is good at doing crafts, design,
Yes,
electronics.
indeed.
So definitely there's still a market out there for it all.
So do you get ideas from people that have actually are requesting a mod for you to do, or are you physically doing the model anyway and you've already noticed that?
It's 50-50. I mean, most of the time I look at the model
Okay.
myself and I say, okay, I see this and think to myself, like the power mod for the Knight Rider. I mean, I saw that straight away and I thought to
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
these batteries aren't going to last. I first thing I do whenever I get electronics in the model is I give that circuit board a good going over, check it, see what's going on with it, notice all the errors that's with it. And most of these circuit boards are cheap Chinese parts, and I think to myself, yeah, that's going to be an issue later on in the build. That's going to be that. So I kind of plan ahead. I've got this big, massive whiteboard that's in my office. It's huge. And I sit there and I do brainstorming, and I chuck a load of stuff on the board and think, okay, this needs to be done.
Mhm.
This harness needs to be built. And then obviously when I'm doing that one mod, I think to myself, okay, so now that one mod is done, actually, I think someone else is going to be needed to be added to this and added to that, and then the next mod is kind of created. I mean, Knight Rider at the moment, as you know, there is quite a few issues. We brought out the screen mod and other things for that as well, and now we've seen that the dashboard itself, with the illumination and the
Yeah.
bright lights, and it's too bright. So I've noticed a problem with that, and by looking into that, I've also found something else going on with the watch, and so it's just one thing after another. There's so many things that I actually need to do. It's just finding the time to actually do
I
them
was
all.
about to say, how on earth do you prioritize? I mean, that's got to be, you throw stuff at the board, it all sticks. You go, well, what do you do first? It's this.
Yeah,
How do you
that's it.
prioritize that? Is it all about, well, where are we in the build? Let's do that thing
Yes,
first, because then you haven't got to take the car to bits to put the mod in, which of course is an issue for some people.
it
Particularly
is.
if you get really further in. I've learned that through trial and error. These days, I don't do that. I basically look at what's probably going to get modded. If I know what something's going to get modded, I'll kind of
Yeah,
wait until I have all the
yeah,
packs so I can build it without having to take the car apart. Which was the issue trying to get the flux
yes,
in, because I was nearly finished, and then I got the kit, and then I had to take the car apart, and that was a bit of a
yes,
trauma, because I was really worried about sort of shorting wires, and the electrics wouldn't work, and the list went on. So, do you do that? Do you have to
yeah,
think about, well, I'm going to do this mob, but where's that going to come in the build? Can I get it ready in
yes.
time to, I guess, reduce that anxiety?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hard part, obviously, developing. When it comes to electronic side of things, that's the hardest part because there's a lot that goes in, there's a lot involved with the electronics. It's the programming, it's
Yeah,
the designing of the circuit board, it's the testing, it's the prototypes. And by the time you get all that into context, you've wasted 2, 3 months of just prototypes alone.
yeah,
And unfortunately, with some people, they want to get the build done, and there are other people like yourself who like to wait. I find there's a kind of a mixture out there of people who want to build the kit. As soon as the parts arrive, they want to get straight into it, build it, and kind of put it on the shelf, which is
yeah,
great. A lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
people just want to build the car as a
yeah.
monthly thing. They enjoy to
Absolutely.
do that, and they want to
Yeah,
get it on the shelf. They want to get it built, which is great. And and then obviously they'll come to you and say, "Oh, is this mod done yet? Have you finished it yet? Is it ready yet?" It kind of like puts a little bit of pressure on you because you're thinking, well, I'm trying my hardest to get this out there for people,
yes,
but if you do rush it, then it's just going to become a part that's not going to be good. And some of those parts for the DeLorean, we did do that, and hence why I am going back over a lot of the DeLorean stuff again, especially things like the tree for the DeLorean, which is now made in metal. So obviously, it's like the real DeLorean. It's got the real
okay,
metal housing and everything
sure,
else.
sure.
So by moving forward on that, things change, as you move on because you try and rush things out for people as much as it's great and it's accurate. You just want to just make some little tweaks just to make it that even more better. So I try and do it for a mixture of both. But if I know a mod is going to take long, then I always put my advice out there and say, it's going to take this amount of time. If you want to build your build, carry on. If not, then just try and hold off as much as you can. So I try and please everybody as best as I can, but unfortunately, it doesn't always happen.
So how much of your house or your workshop does this take up with all of these
Well, the
mods?
actual, yeah, I mean, the workshop itself, I mean, I've got a separate office for the workshop. It's 3 rooms, literally just for everything.
Jeez.
One day I'm going to do a complete tour of the place
Yeah,
and show
yeah,
everything
yeah.
off and show it all out. I mean, there's one room which is just the electronics room, which at the moment looks like a complete mess. There's wires everywhere. It's a trip hazard, which is which is not very good.
Yes.
But it's one of those things at the moment where you're constantly, because it's by myself, I'm doing everything by myself. It's constantly trying to, go from one room to another and get everything done, get everything out there. And obviously there's wait times because there's so many mods that I'm actually doing at the moment and so
Mm,
much going on that, I tried. And as you said earlier on, Dave, how do you prioritize? You have to prioritize on what's kind of going the most and going the quickest, and obviously what's the easiest to make and get out there quick so everybody can be happy. Stuff that takes a little bit longer, you kind of like spend a bit more time on to not to rush it, because obviously if you rush it then you don't want to make mistakes.
Your attention to detail in the mods is unsurpassed, but the packaging of your products is amazing. It's like I don't know if anyone's ever had anything from Modelmodz, but you
mm,
open the box, is that everything is like molded perfectly into place, perfectly wrapped. It's like a presentation in itself. It's like
Yeah.
you'd pay for that more over than the mods, which was the first thing I noticed when I received my first mods from Modelmodz. I was like, this packaging is amazing. But is that important to you? Is it the whole presentation?
Packaging is
mm.
100%. Presentation's 100% important to me because they always say is the first thing you see is the packaging, and like any product, you look at it and think, oh my god, I don't just want to send something out in an envelope and just send it out. I think presentation is important. It keeps the product.
Do you feel that that's what people kind of expect? Because they feel like, oh, this is a cottage industry. It's probably going to be a garage kit, and in their minds, then they can see what a garage kit looks like. It's a plain brown box, maybe with a couple of jiffy
Yep.
bags inside, and that's it.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's kind of the accepted. That's what this stuff is probably going to be like. And then when it isn't,
Yeah.
it's like, wow, this is a
No.
proper product. You know, that's amazing. So it's kind of changing perceptions a little bit. It's a very interesting move away from that, because we're all kind of used to, you know, buying this stuff for our models, and these are very small companies.
Yeah.
In fact, I was going to ask you that. You said you're a one-man band, so it is that then. It is literally like that. It's not some huge manufacturing system in China somewhere. It's kind of you at a
No.
bench.
That's correct. Yeah. So basically, all the boxes and packaging, the foam is actually the foam packaging that I use, which is engraved, is done on done on the machine, which is in the office itself.
Yeah.
It's all cut and laser and etched. It's cut to size. It's all made.
Wow.
The parts are fitted and tested to make sure they go in there. The labeling is all done. Obviously, I don't have a labeling machine that gets obviously sent off to be printed. The
Yeah.
only thing that does get sent off is literally the stickers to go on the box itself. One big thing that we did change, which was important to me, was the environmental aspect of things and
Yes.
making sure
Sure.
that
Sure.
less plastic packaging was used as possible. As much as we all like models, a lot of boxes do sort of people want to rush in and get it and then sort of chuck the boxes in the bin. And for me, it was about having the boxes all to be made obviously from paper. They're all disposable. Um, all the foam inside can actually be disposed of, all safely as well. And the only thing that's on the outside is the plastic wrap, and the actual plastic wrap that we use is biodegradable as well. So it's
Okay.
all all 100% for the environment as well, and that is actually important when it comes to making things as well.
How did your business fare during COVID, and also for when Eagle Moss went down?
Yeah.
Did you get hit by that? Because I think a lot of people were stung by that, and they were a
Yeah,
bit nervous to actually get back into that. Also, with the fact that obviously the DeLorean finished, does that affect your mods and the sales of that going down? It's good
it
that now
did.
it's been picked up by Fan Home, that it comes up again now, but it is one of these things where you'll create a mod. What is the life of that mod? Because once the partworks have gone, it's very rare they come
That's it.
back.
It is, and that was hard. That was a tough one for everybody. COVID. We were obviously in lockdown a lot of the times, and at that time, I had an older office, and the older office that I was renting at the time went into lockdown, which was super annoying because I couldn't access my office, and at the time I had to make
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
hundreds of mods, and obviously having no keys to a building that was locked up, I was so far behind on doing a lot of stuff
Yeah.
and trying to explain to everybody, look, I'm trying to make this stuff, but I can't get into the building was super hard. When I did get into the building and get back into it again, I also found that more and more people, because they were at home and in lockdown, they had nothing to do, so they were building models. So
Absolutely.
in terms of
Hmm.
in terms of the
Yeah.
business, people
Yeah.
were ordering a lot from us in lockdown purely because of the lockdown, and they had nothing to do in building models. But then it just added more pressure to myself because I was finding that I was so far behind on things, and it just really affected me a lot. We had to I had to move in the end because the building suffered dramatically. They lost, they lost a lot of business, and they had to close down. I had to move again, which also then put me behind. And I just found myself, on a downfall, being behind, and I needed to catch up. And I think when Eagle Moss went belly up, that just added a big strain on the business and thinking, where do we go moving forward? What's happening now? People were, getting angry that this model was finishing, and I felt their pain. A classic
Yeah.
car with both Ecto, DeLorean was all failing, and it was a real shame. So that had a dramatic impact on me and the business, and even up till today, I'm trying to how can I put it, put things right and try and move forward, and that then Kit came along, and that changed everything, and trying to move forward, do great mods, and do what we're doing today. It's actually going okay.
Cool.
Yes. I mean, COVID was massively positive for model making community. Absolutely, it really was. Loads of people got back into it
Yeah.
because they got nothing else to do. They thought, well,
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed this when I was younger, so maybe I could get back into this again. I think a lot of them, they
Yes.
came back and thought, well, I can pay attention to the plastic kit market, but there's all this other
Yes.
stuff. Yeah. What's all this? So I could do these without having to get all the kind of kit together. The tool set
Yes.
to build a part work is infinitely smaller than to build a plastic kit. Have a look at my workshop; it's ridiculous. It's an interesting trend, I guess. People that maybe
Yeah.
were building plastic kits when they were younger, they've come back to it. They've continued to do that, but then they added on these larger models. But some people have come into it, of course, from no background at all. They've come into it and say, "Well, I quite fancy building that," and you're saying that all I need is a screwdriver. Well, I can probably follow
Yeah.
instructions. So yeah, let's do that. Um, and it's an interesting trend. It seems to me that that's expanded over time. Clearly, as you look at the expansion in the part work manufacturers, they clearly see that. And I think we're seeing maybe less models than we used to. I think we had a conversation about this a while back, didn't we, Wayne? And we were saying,
Yeah.
well, usually
Yeah.
when we got to sort of January time, loads of advertisements on telly for all the new part works, and that's slowed,
That's
I
correct.
think,
Yeah.
infinitely compared to what it used to be like.
You saying that the Diagostini Lotus that I've just started building, that's
Mm.
the first time I've seen an advert on TV during the Formula One, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
it was crazy because I haven't seen that for a while.
I think it's just an interesting one. They seem to be picking very, very carefully. I guess because the investment's massive, isn't it? I mean, it's huge to put these things
Huge.
together. I mean,
Yeah.
when we obviously talking about really about what these things actually cost. I mean, do you ever get pushback about that, Chloe, and say, well, these mods, we love them, but they're expensive. We want to do this, but we're spending a lot of money on the model as well. Do you ever get pushback from the client base, or are they really? Is there an understanding there that these are handmade? They're all mass produced, and that means that the unit price is going to be higher than something that is mass produced. Do you ever get pushback?
Yeah. Constantly. I mean, there are people out there who look at it and go, I really, really want this for my model, but I can't afford it right now.
Mm,
I think mainly before COVID happened, that wasn't more of the case. I think a lot of people just wanted it and they managed to just find the money and just, buy the mods. I
yeah,
think it's affected it more now with the cost of living and obviously, the war and everything that's going on at the moment. I think now that more and more people have found it harder to buy mods. I think we offer the clear pay and easy pay system on our shop
yeah.
now. I'm
Good,
finding more and more people are using clear pay and easy pay
good.
for that because they want the mods and they want to wait, they want the mods, they want the great product, and they just can't afford to pay it in one go, and that's understandable. I mean, it's a tough world out there at the moment, so there is a lot of pushbacks at the moment.
Definitely. And on your mods that you've got, what do the part work companies think of that? Have you had much communication between
Mm.
those?
I have. I mean, Agora, they love what I do, and I constantly talk to Agora all the time. Fan Home, I mean, they've seen the stuff, but they don't sort of they don't want to promote it as much.
Yes,
I've
yeah,
noticed they'll sort of say that's really good, but
yeah.
like you,
No,
they
no
sort of say,
surprise. Yeah, yeah.
we don't want to promote that,
Sure.
Yeah.
which is understandable.
Yeah,
There are a
sure.
lot of part work out there that have seen it, and they like to say, "Oh, it's a great mod," but they won't promote it and stuff. I think Eagle Moss did at one point. They
Mm.
promoted it, but they didn't, move forward with it.
I don't understand that because often I think people will see a good example is Kit. As a standalone
Yes.
model, it's fine. But as soon as you see the working dashboard, that's what sells the kit, if you ask me. I can put a working dashboard into
Yeah.
that and it infinitely raises the
Yep.
model. So the actual model itself is pretty good, but I
Yep.
could do this. Wow,
Yep.
that just sells it
Yep.
absolutely every time. I
Yep.
think that's that kind of extras that sold it to me. So I was
Yeah.
iffing and butting, and then I thought, well, I bet someone's going to come along with some kind of working dashboard, and guess what? Here we are,
Yep.
and that kind of sold it. Then that's why there's 25 boxes in my workshop waiting to be unpacked. But it's a weird one. It's that
To me,
kind
it
of
was Bob Gow holding Chloe's flux capacitor.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
It's just that it's that little thing. Well, yep, that's fine. I'm having that. It's whatever
Yeah.
gets you over the edge. It seems to me, and often it is something silly
Yes.
like that. It's like, wow, I want to see that working, and so fine,
Yeah.
we're gonna do that. So it's kind of chicken and egg. So that kind of cool reception from the manufacturers, I really don't get that. That's kind of, well, yeah, that's a bit sourpuss, really. It's like, come on, guys.
We're giving these guys like we're helping them out. I mean, look at Fan Home at the moment, and more people are subscribing to the build. I find when they come online and think, oh, look at these mods. Oh, this is amazing. We've got the
Mm,
dashboard mod. Oh,
mm,
I want to build this car now because literally I've just seen these mods. So I kind of guess that we're helping them, in the
yeah,
long run
yeah,
as well, because more and more
absolutely.
people are subscribing, seeing the mods before the actual car is out, which is I'm seeing a lot more of that as well. I'm not building this car yet, but they've ordered the mods before they've ordered the car, which is you know is amazing.
Is there any models that you'd like to see out, Chloe, that you haven't built
Me,
yet or you'd like to see in the marketplace?
I mean, me personally, there's always ever only been one model that I would like to see out, apart from the DeLorean, and that is Johnny Five. I mean, I know
Wow.
everyone's out there
Mm,
who said
yeah,
Johnny Five, and obviously the everyone wants a mini version of it. There's so many people out there that are doing Johnny Five kits, and
yep,
the real Johnny Five, and
yep.
but just having a kit form of that, I think that would be absolutely amazing for everybody to have. I mean, the mods on that alone would be crazy.
That's definitely something I'd love to see something
I
like
really
that.
would, yeah.
We only see it in
I've seen a full
yep.
size one. I've seen a full size one. There's a guy near me in
Mm,
Nottingham. He's got a Johnny Five that
Yes.
he takes to conventions, and I've seen
mm.
that.
His guy
And
his Johnny Five is amazing,
yeah,
absolutely amazing.
I've seen a couple of 3D print kits which you can buy. I think there's a guy that's just bought another one out. I think it's quite limited edition. Something the price is quite high, but it's all 3D
Yeah,
printed, 1,000 parts or wherever it is. It's got
yeah,
electrics on it, but I think he's going to sell the kit itself. But really, it's for the 3D print market. If you have a really good
yeah,
resin printer,
it is.
then you can download these things. But it's like 1,000 parts. Yeah, it's.
Yeah,
I think
wow.
I even asked an agency. I said, "Well, I want to print that. How much have you printed it for me?" It's like 2 grand to print the thing, you know,
yeah,
which is quite a lot for a 3D printed kit. And then I got to put all the
yeah.
electrics in and all the rest of it. So yeah, an actual sort of part work for that would be amazing.
Would
Um,
be would be a game changer. Yeah,
well, it would, and I'm sure that's on some shortlist when they have meetings at Fanhelm and all the rest of them. But how they decide which one they go for, of course, well, that's a bit above our pay grade, really. Um, I'm sure a lot of stuff
it is.
gets us.
I'd love to know. I'd love to know what
Oh
the
yeah,
choice is,
I
what
would.
how
yeah,
they
yeah,
pick things.
How they
yeah.
come up with it. Yeah,
Yeah, love to know that. What's the deciding factor? And why do you still insist on putting out these test pieces or 3 or 4 issues in very very weird
yeah,
areas in the UK? Does that really give you any kind of
yep.
data that it's worth pushing forward with something? Does it really? Um, but they've been doing that for
No,
years, so it must work. But really, these
yeah,
days, you could do that much more sensibly through social media and all the rest of it. Just ask people,
I think so.
what's
Yeah,
what's on your list, and that becomes the next 2 or 3 mods for them. But as you often
yeah,
mentioned, Wayne, it's probably the licensing, isn't it? That's kind of what
Yeah.
kills a lot of these.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. But the I mean, some of these things that I'd like to see release. I think Johnny Fives were a talking point because it was going to be done as a spin-off series. It was going to be done as a reboot film, but I think because of the original source material is now quite controversial, I
Yeah,
don't think we're ever going to see it. To be honest with you,
yeah, yeah.
but
no,
when I was at Wonderfest, Todd McWilliams, that's Marvel Phoenix, The Maker's Cave, and Ian Schwartz, it's Pit Stain Models, I think. They all bought a number 5, which was is about 30 centimeters, about a foot high, but it was all held together with magnets, really strong magnets.
Mm.
Amazing it was. I think it won an award
mm,
as well because they had them all lined up as the Three Stooges pose with toilet seats around their head, and
I saw
it
that. Yeah,
it was really, really good. But I'd
yeah,
never
yeah,
seen anything like that. And that's again, someone's actually made that, just garage kit, put it together.
yeah,
Pretty amazing. But going forward though, for you, Chloe, is this year's gonna come July, I think, is gonna make you very busy when the DeLorean's
so yeah,
re-released. Well, the DeLorean's already out, but with the Ecto one, the Enterprise coming out, you're going to get a lot of people
yeah.
saying Modelmodz, I'm after this.
Yeah,
Yes.
can you do this? And especially with Agora models as well, with, if once they start releasing their, DB5 and everything else as well, I can just see the amount of people that are going to want this and want that with it. So it's going to be an exciting year, I think.
And be
Definitely.
a very busy year. I think that's also, I guess, an issue for all the modding community. I mean, you're building this stuff because it's what can you build? How fast can you build it? Didn't you have a massive issue
Yeah.
with trying to get IC components when there was a huge shortage? Was it the
Yes.
beginning of the year? So you physically couldn't build these things. You just couldn't get the components, or at least you couldn't get the components for the right price.
Yes, that still is a problem now. It's an ongoing issue with China at the moment. A lot of Chinese manufacturers moved over into Taiwan. Most of the
Oh, right,
semiconductor
right.
market is now 90% of the semiconductor market is now in Taiwan. So obviously, what happens is at the moment the microchip itself gets made onto a single plate. And then obviously that plate then has to go and be manufactured. And during plate transfers, as they call it, so for example, when they make a design and they say, oh, we need to change something, it has to go into a queuing system.
Hmm.
So the queuing system can actually last up to 2 years. So just to make
Wow.
one small change, it can take up to 2 years. And because most of the semiconductors are now done by one company in Taiwan, they have got a backlog of up to 2.5 years. So
Wow.
if you want to get a certain microchip made, or if there's a microchip that you use and it's running very, very low, for them to restock it again, they'll come to you and say, "Yeah, we are making that chip. Don't worry about it. We're bringing it out, but it's going to be here for another year and a half." And there are still some parts that I've ordered that I'm waiting a year and a half ago, which haven't arrived yet. And so I've had to change my design quite a few times on some parts,
Yes.
literally just to try and get the mods out and do things. But it means by me changing things, I have to now go back over my design, go back over to prototype, go back over to testing, and that puts me again behind, literally because of that market.
That's
Yes.
crazy because as a consumer of your product, I wouldn't have even expected any of that. But you explaining all that must be a headache
Yeah.
for you. But for us, I think it adds more appreciation to the product you're actually making.
Yeah, I mean the 1 to 6 switch that I built for the DeLorean, the wireless 1 to 6 switch, again that's out of stock because there's component issues. Again, is it a case that I wait for what's being delivered to me, or do I
Mm.
redesign it again for the third time? And just right now, because there's so much going on with the kit, I literally do not have the time to sit there and redesign something. It would literally take me back another 2 to 3 months of redesigning and changing the circuit board, getting prototypes and things like that. So it does affect me a lot, and not many people sort of see the background of what actually goes on when it's making a mod. They sort of think, well, there's a mod here, just get your soldering iron out, solder it all together. I'm sure it'll only take a few days. They don't understand the background of what's actually going out there, and not many people would do, because obviously it's not their background and what they do.
Yeah.
But it's a big thing going out there in Taiwan and China at the moment, and it's not just affecting obviously myself, it's affecting global. I mean, the iPhone market, the
Yes, indeed.
Samsung market,
Yeah.
everyone is being
Yeah.
affected at the moment by these microchips. And the GeForce microchips that GeForce use in their graphics cards, there's a massive delay. There's a 3-year delay on one of their new graphics cards, purely because they can't get the processor in time from this manufacturer, because they are so far behind. It's crazy at the moment, it really is. But you don't kind of see that because you're not doing it as a kind of full-time thing.
No, that's absolutely right. It's an evolving thing in the marketplace. But as consumers, we just don't see the sharp end.
Yeah.
When you're trying to manufacture something or anything,
No.
it's once you get into the detail, it's kind of, well, it's down the rabbit hole really. How it's just where it becomes highly complex, and I think every business is
Yeah.
trying to manage that. Well,
Yeah.
I guess we kind of finish with with this interview. With I guess what's next. Do you have any sort of plans for the future, Chloe? Anything that we can expect from Modelmodz sort of around the corner? Anything you can sort of talk about?
I mean, I've got a few mods on the go at the moment for kit. There's a few things I want to do, especially with the watch at the moment. There's a
Mm.
there's an ongoing issue with that, with the battery draining constantly.
Okay. Yeah.
The circuit board that's inside that I'm in the middle of doing as well. I'm doing more with lights and smoke at the moment.
Mm. Yeah.
Smoke and mirrors, as they sort of say.
Indeed. Yes.
An upcoming mod with a display base that's coming with smoke and mirrors.
Okay.
um, Moving forward with model mods, obviously, it's just going with the flow in terms of when the parts arrive, what can we actually do, and looking forward to the new models and just trying to bring these models to life. It's always been my motto, bring the model to life, and I will continue to do so as long as I can, really.
And you just don't do it for the community either, because I remember seeing your sword diorama, which is obviously a
Yeah,
passion product that you've done for yourself. But that was pretty
it is. Yes.
amazing, and I'm sure your collection must be all singing and dancing with lights and whistles and everything.
They are. Every model I've got in my house is working as a. I've got a nun diorama with a working picture frame that screams, and my Freddy diorama that has smoke coming out of the fireplace, and
Wow.
Jason with his
Brilliant.
saw. There's
Yeah,
quite a few things, and these are kind of videos that I've uploaded as well, and it gives me enjoyment as well. It's kind of like my away from office to home, but even when I'm at work, and at home I'm working. So it's 24/7 kind of doing mods.
I'd definitely love to have some of those horror dioramas, but Mrs. Wilder Wayne will say no to that. She's
Yes.
not a horror fan.
no,
Oh, no.
absolutely not. No, I can't even have Terminator because of the red eyes. Just won't
Yes.
allow that either. It's so, well, where would you put it?
Hey,
So,
we can, you can always put blue eyes in it.
I said, well, I can switch them off. I said, well, yeah, but it's still this thing going to be staring at me. Cry. You had yours at the top of the stairs, Wayne. I mean, Jesus, that's scary.
Yeah. Yeah, but I
mine
turned mine into Batman, so it's like Batman Terminator cross.
yes,
So it's
yes,
not so
that's the
bad
thing.
now.
Yeah, mine would probably go in the hallway. So when people visit me, it's like, Jesus, what's that? But yeah, in the end, he got vetoed. So hey, that's a conversation that got killed off. Maybe in the future, we'll have to see. Well, we've come to the end of our time, Chloe. Well, that's I mean, that's been a fantastic insight. I think. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us today.
Yeah, you're
So,
welcome.
definitely.
Thank you.
You,
Thank
Chloe.
you for having me here anyway.
well, yeah,
Thanks for having me here. It's been very good.
yeah, it's hopefully we can maybe revisit this conversation maybe in a future episode, particularly if there's something very, very interesting that you've come up with and we want to basically grill you about. I think that'll be very, very good. But say thanks again for joining us today.
Yeah.
For everyone that's sort of listening to this, I say please do visit Chloe's website at Modelmodz for the latest information about the mods for your models. So until the next time, thanks again for Chloe. Well, everyone, we're sort of coming to the end of this episode. I hope you've found that interesting and as engaging as we have. I think we've covered a lot of ground in this one, particularly Chloe's insights into the modding community. What I would say with the next episode, that'll be coming very very shortly. So as I said at the beginning, if you guys have any sort of questions, any queries, do get those to us as soon as you can. We'll try and answer those on the next episode if it's at all possible. With the next episode, we're also going to have hopefully our guest will be Todd McWilliams from My Partworks. That's the plan. Hopefully we can nail Todd down for an hour for a chat at some point. But we're hoping that he'll be our guest for the next episode.
Yeah, fantastic guy, Todd. I met him at Wonderfest this year. Absolutely brilliant. His My Partworks sites. Believe me, if I could use his sites rather than the instructions that are online, I would rather use Todd's sites every
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah, he does an amazing job. In fact, I pretty much think I would be lost when I was putting Chloe's what's it called, the new wire all the way around the car.
Yeah,
replacing
the flux bands.
All the flux bands. I can't think of that. Trying to replace all the flux bands. His instructions were fantastic to do that, and I don't think I would have managed it without Todd's instructions. So nice one, Todd. So unfortunately, we're out of time, everyone. So I guess until the next episode, it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from Wayne.
Yes, goodbye, everyone. Take care. The Scale Model World Podcast.